My son stopped calling me 6 years ago. I'm 79 years old and I spent the first 4 of those years angry. Angry at him, angry at his wife, angry at whatever it was that made him decide his father wasn't worth a phone call anymore. I told myself he was ungrateful, that I'd given him everything, that this generation doesn't understand loyalty or family or what it means to sacrifice. But sitting here now, in this house that's too big for one person, I've had time to think, a lot of time. And the anger has worn away like paint on an old fence, and underneath it is something worse. Understanding. My name is Richard. I worked in insurance for 42 years. I was good at my job. I provided for my family. We had a nice house in a good neighborhood. My son Michael went to a decent school. We never struggled for money. I thought that's what being a father meant. Show up, pay the bills, keep everyone safe. I was there physically. I came home every night. I sat at the dinner table. I was in the house, but when I look back now, really look back, I see something I didn't want to see for most of my life. I was never really present. Michael was 7 when he started playing soccer. He was small for his age, clumsy, enthusiastic in that way kids are when they first discover something they love. He'd come home from practice, talking so fast I could barely understand him, showing me moves, asking if I'd come watch his games on Saturday mornings. I went to maybe 3 games that whole season, maybe 4. I always had a reason, work to catch up on. The yard needed attention. I was tired. Saturdays were the only day I had to rest. He'd ask on Friday nights, his voice careful, already preparing for disappointment. You coming tomorrow, Dad? And I'd say, we'll see, buddy. Which we both knew meant no. By the second season, he stopped asking. I told myself it didn't matter. He was just kicking a ball around. He had his mother there cheering in the stands. He didn't need both of us. But I remember one Saturday morning, I was reading the newspaper in the kitchen, and he walked past me in his uniform, cleats in hand. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me for a moment, and then he left. That look, I didn't understand it then. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even sadness. It was resignation. At 7 years old, my son had already learned not to expect me. When he was 13, he tried to talk to me about something that happened at school, some trouble with another kid. I was watching television. I remember the show, some crime drama my wife liked. Michael sat down next to me and started talking. I nodded along, made the appropriate sounds, but I wasn't listening. Not really. My eyes stayed on the screen. After a few minutes, he stopped talking. He sat there for another moment, and then he got up and went to his room. I don't even remember what the problem was. I couldn't tell you now if I tried. But I remember the show ending, and feeling vaguely guilty about something, and then letting it go because the next episode was starting. That happened dozens of times, hundreds maybe. Small moments where he reached out and I was somewhere else. Not physically. I was right there, 3 feet away. But I wasn't there. In high school, he wanted to study architecture. He'd show me his drawings, these detailed sketches of buildings, bridges, things he imagined. He'd talk about programs, about colleges, about wanting to visit some famous buildings in Chicago. I'd look at his drawings for maybe 10 seconds and say, "That's nice, son." And then I'd go back to whatever I was doing. When it came time to apply to colleges, I told him architecture wasn't practical, that he should study something useful. Business, maybe, engineering if he wanted to build things. He applied to architecture programs anyway, but he also applied to business schools. He got accepted to both. I remember the night he had to decide. He came to me with brochures, with that same careful voice he'd had when he was 7, asking about soccer games. He wanted to talk it through. He wanted my advice, or maybe he just wanted permission to follow his own dream. I was reading the paper again. I told him to be practical, to think about his future, to not waste time on things that wouldn't lead anywhere. He went to business school. He did well. He got a good job. He never drew another building. I thought I was being a good father. I thought I was guiding him, protecting him, making sure he'd be okay. But what I was really doing was teaching him that his passions didn't matter, that his voice didn't matter, that I wasn't interested in who he actually was. He met Sarah when he was 26. She was kind, patient, good for him. They got engaged a year later. I liked her. I told him so once, briefly. He seemed surprised that I had an opinion at all. The wedding was beautiful. Sarah's family was loud, affectionate, constantly talking and laughing. My side of the church was quieter, polite, proper. I sat in the front row and watched my son get married, and I felt proud the way you're supposed to feel. But there was something else too, something I couldn't quite name. At the reception, I gave a speech. I'd written it the night before, short, straightforward. I talked about watching Michael grow up, about being proud of the man he'd become, about welcoming Sarah to the family. People clapped. Michael smiled at me from his table, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. There was that look again, the same one from when he was 7, walking past me in his soccer uniform. He wasn't angry, he wasn't hurt, he was just distant, looking at someone he was related to by blood, but didn't really know. We saw each other on holidays after that, Christmas, Thanksgiving. The conversations were surface level, weather, work, safe topics. We'd run out of things to say after 20 minutes. My wife would fill the silence, talking to Sarah, asking about their lives. I'd sit there wondering why it felt so awkward to be in the same room as my own son. My wife died 4 years after the wedding. Cancer, quick and brutal. She was gone within 6 months of the diagnosis. Michael came to the hospital. He was there at the funeral. He called a few times in the weeks after, checking in, but even then, there was a formality to it, like he was fulfilling an obligation. The calls became less frequent, once a month, every 2 months. Then they stopped. The last time we spoke was 6 years ago. It was his birthday. I called him, we talked for maybe 5 minutes. I asked how he was. He said fine. I said that's good. He said he had to go. And that was it. I waited for him to call back. He didn't. Weeks passed, then months. I thought about calling him, but I didn't. I was still angry then. I thought he owed me more than that. I was his father. I'd raised him. I'd provided for him. How dare he just disappear? But anger fades when you have nothing but time to think. And eventually, I started to see it clearly. He didn't abandon me. You can't abandon someone who was never really there to begin with. I was in the house, but I was never present. I was at the dinner table, but I was never engaged. I was his father in title, but I never did the work of actually knowing him. I never asked what he cared about. I never listened when he tried to tell me. I never showed up, not in the way that mattered. And now I'm 79 years old, and I live alone in a house full of silence. I keep my phone next to me, always. I check it dozens of times a day, even though I know it won't ring. Sometimes I open old photos on my computer. Michael as a child, grinning at the camera. Michael as a teenager, already starting to pull away. Michael at his wedding, looking at me with that sad, resigned smile. I think about calling him. I pick up the phone sometimes and dial half the number before I stop. What would I even say? That I'm sorry? That I finally understand? That I wasted his entire childhood being physically present, but emotionally absent? That I want to know him now, when he's 43 and has built a whole life without me? Once, about 2 years ago, I did call. Late at night, the phone rang 4 times and went to voicemail. I heard his voice, brief and professional. You've reached Michael. Leave a message. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. What could I possibly say in 30 seconds that would undo 40 years? I hung up. He didn't call back. Maybe he saw the missed call and knew it was me. Maybe he just deleted it. I looked him up online once, found some photos. He looks good. Older, of course. There are lines around his eyes now that weren't there at his wedding. In one photo, he's standing in front of a building, a real one, not a drawing. I zoomed in and saw a small plaque with architectural firm names. He's designing buildings after all. Despite me, not because of me, he found his way back to what he loved, just without his father in the picture. It's too late for that. I know it is. You don't get to ignore someone for 40 years and then demand their attention when you finally realize what you've lost. I see fathers now, at the park near my house. Young fathers, playing with their kids. Actually playing, not standing to the side checking their phones. I see them push their children on swings. I see them get down on the ground and build sandcastles. I see them listening, really listening, when their kids talk about nothing in particular. And I think about all the times Michael tried to show me something, tell me something, include me in his world. All the times I said, that's nice, without looking up. All the Saturday mornings I stayed home while he learned to live without me. I was never cruel. I never yelled. I never hurt him in any obvious way. I just wasn't there. And maybe that's worse. Maybe it would have been better if I'd been actively bad, because then at least he'd have a clear reason to leave. Instead, he just slowly learned that his father was a person who occupied space in the house but had no real interest in him. I'm not telling you this for sympathy. I'm telling you because I wish someone had told me when I was younger. When I still had time. If you have children, and you're reading this, or listening to this, or however this has found you, I want you to ask yourself something. Are you there, really there, when your kid is talking to you? Are you listening? When they want to show you something, are you looking? When they ask you to come to their game, their recital, their thing that matters to them, are you going? Because being in the house isn't enough. Paying the bills isn't enough. Providing isn't enough. Your kids won't remember the money you made. They'll remember whether or not you showed up. They'll remember whether you were interested. They'll remember if you made time for them, or if they learned to stop asking for it. I thought I was being a good father. I thought I was doing my job, but I was just going through the motions. And now I'm 79, and my son doesn't call, and I understand why. He didn't abandon me. I was never really there to leave.